What's going on, everyone? Happy Saturday to everyone. Hopefully everyone is doing well, staying safe. Hopefully you're having a good day so far. And if you're not feeling well and you had to take a COVID test, hopefully you have tested negative. If you did test positive, I hope you have a full and speedy recovery with no long COVID issues. It is time now for the Saturday edition of the Pandemic Update for Saturday, June 8th, 2024. If you're new to my channel, this is where we do the daily update on the ongoing COVID pandemic. And we do talk about other health-related issues as well. Generally speaking, we talk about viruses that are out there that could impact your health. If a new virus pops up, which seems to be happening frequently, chances are we do talk about it here on the channel. And of course, I do have a website as well where I document, outbreaks, famous people who test positive for COVID studies, all that type stuff. That website is datareport.info. Of course, you want to stay informed with what's going on with COVID and other viruses. Just subscribe to my channel down below. Give this video a thumbs up. Share this video with anyone you know. Hit that notification bell so you know when the next video comes out, which we do one just about 7 days a week. And of course, leave your comments on what you see today down below, or maybe you just have something that you want to say. All right, we do have a few news stories. Actually, no, we do have several news stories to talk about today. Then we're going to take a look at some data, and we're going to take a look at something that we have not looked at in a very, very long time. I happened to find a page on the CDC site yesterday that I thought was very interesting in relation to COVID and going to the hospital. So that's something we have to look at. Plus, we'll look at some of the CDC data that updated yesterday. And New Jersey. No, we will not be looking at New York State today because New York State does not update on the weekends. If there's enough time, maybe we'll repeat what the numbers were for New York State to finish out the week. All right, starting off with H5N1 news today. Bird flu in dairy cows. Yep, it is now spreading to another state. Wyoming reports its first outbreak of H5N1 bird flu. And take a look at this map here. You can see the red states. They're starting to fill in. There's becoming more and more states. And let's take a look at the state-by-state totals. Michigan has had 25 bird flu outbreaks in cattle. Texas 18. Idaho now 18. Who would have thought? Little old Idaho would be tied right up there with Texas, which Texas is such a big state. New Mexico 8, South Dakota 5, Colorado 4, Kansas 4, Minnesota 3, Iowa 2, Ohio 1, North Carolina 1, and Wyoming 1. Slowly but surely, we are spreading to more and more states. Is it going to become every state? I don't know, but I don't think we're going to stop here. I think we're going to see more and more states, and I think the majority of the states will eventually probably fill in. That's just what's happening here. I mean, this is evolving fast, and just in the past 2 or 3 days, we have seen several new outbreaks. We probably won't see any new ones this weekend because it's the weekend. You don't get a lot of reports on the weekend, but wouldn't surprise me if come Monday morning we see more outbreaks added. All right, taking a look at this now. Madrid, Spain. Wow, this is just totally unacceptable. It shows how many people do not take a COVID test right now. 43.2% positivity rate in Madrid, Spain. But there's also another problem. It's not all because people aren't taking a test right now. It's also because their cases, they are going upward. And when you have cases going up coupled with low testing, you're going to get an insane positivity rate. And they have one right now, 43.2%. But we do know something else about Spain that also happened in Paris. Taylor Swift had concerts there. Thousands of fans have commented on social media that they felt ill after attending concerts on May 29th and May 30th. Remember, it started off in Paris that there was illness after the Taylor Swift concerts? Well, now it's happening in Madrid, Spain as well. Seems like wherever she goes, she draws a large crowd of people. When you get a large crowd of people congregated together, guess what happens? People start to feel ill and test positive for COVID. There is a big concert here in Philadelphia tonight. I'm going to be keeping my eyes out for social media postings of people getting sick. Kenny Chesney is coming here tonight, and he is going to have a humongous concert. I don't know what the attendance is going to be. I think it's at our football stadium, Lincoln Financial Field, but, I mean, that stadium can hold a lot of people. So, wouldn't surprise me if people start testing positive after that. Sticking with music, we have more music news. We actually have multiple more music news stories. A rock star is quitting touring over COVID-19 fears. Glass Beach's William White explains his concern. Now, he does do a three-part video, three different videos on X. We're not going to watch those videos. I watched them last night. He's actually doing the responsible thing. He actually sat down and said in the video, you know what? It's just not safe to go on touring anymore. He's seeing what's happening in the industry to other rock stars, other musicians, and he's saying, you know what? COVID, it's not getting any better. Long COVID's a real thing, and he says, you know what? It's time to step away. From time to time, he may still, perform a couple times, but he's basically saying it's time to retire. It's just not safe to perform in front of large audiences. Well, here is another example of it not being safe. Remember, Bruce Springsteen was having voice issues and he had all of his other issues, but they want to go out and say, oh, long COVID. Well, there's someone else, John Bon Jovi. Now, his voice issues, they started long before COVID. However, we're now in a COVID area. And I don't know if he was touring at all during COVID, but the point is, he has now had a case of COVID, and he's actually admitting, let's scroll down here, he's actually admitting that he is dealing with a bout of long COVID. His ordeal was documented in the band's recent 4-part documentary series on Disney+. Thank You, Good Night, The Bon Jovi Story. Now, I haven't had a chance to see this yet, and I'm assuming they are referring to his voice issues, but who knows? This is a new documentary. Maybe they also talked about when he went on to develop long COVID after a case of COVID in the COVID area. I don't know when precisely his case was. Someone let me know down below. I don't recall. Did I document that in my archive? If not, I am going to make sure I try and get that in there. But yes, John Bon Jovi is now admitting he is dealing with long COVID. If you want to read this full story and all about his voice issues and the rest of the article, you can do so. I did tweet this article out. All right, I have some exciting news to talk about here in the United States. We've been watching many other countries around the world have these multi-test COVID testing kits. Here in the United States, we have these tests. It's just for COVID, but you can't test for anything else in one test. Well, that was before. That has changed now. You can now buy what FDA has authorized. It is the WattMind USA over-the-counter COVID and flu test. It's a test. You test for COVID, plus you test for flu A and B all in one test. This is going to be available relatively soon. I don't have the website link here. I'm going to make sure I get that website link tweeted out on X or posted on X, as we should say these days. And I recommend buying them. Because a lot of times people test negative for COVID and they think, well, maybe it still could be COVID. Maybe I need to test again. And in a lot of cases, that is the case. You have to test again. And oh, look, surprise, it is positive. But in other cases, you still do have the flu. And it's rare to get the flu in the summertime, but come wintertime, it is great to have a multi-test just to see what you have. So we now have one. WattMind is developing one that is going to be COVID plus flu A and B, and you can see whether it's COVID or flu. I think that's fantastic, and I hope we advance this even further to have a test that shows, is it flu, is it COVID, or is it RSV? Because there were a lot of people last year that were confused. Well, what do I have? It's negative for COVID, but it's expensive to get an RSV test. There's a lot of problems, but hey, now at least we have the at-home test for flu and COVID. Alrighty, moving on now. Let's take a look at what is going on with pollen levels today. And the National Allergy Map shows 59% of the country is in medium status. Still red today up there in Oregon. Some oranges there as well. Even some oranges in the Northeast, which reminds me, I need to take my allergy medicine today because, hey, I'm going to be bike riding later on, and that pollen, it can get into your eyes. It may even be a good idea if you're bike riding, wear goggles as well. I will at least wear a mask while riding a bike. Why? Because I don't want to breathe that pollen through my nose or into my mouth. Then you get all congested. Not a good thing. Moving on to air quality. Air quality is not too bad for many areas today, although there are some areas. Look at the East. Wow. The East is just doing fantastic. The best we have been in a while. Another reason why it's a good day for me to go out bike riding. Take a look here. Texas, we still have some oranges as well. And Even the West Coast is not too bad. Yes, there's a few bad areas down near Santa Barbara, down near LA. Santa Barbara, you're actually not that bad at the moment. As we get up close to the Bay Area, we are seeing some red there and just a few yellow areas up in Oregon and Washington today. Taking a look at the heat map, and this map is going to fill in more. And I know it's not coming up at the moment. Here it comes. But it is going to fill in more. The south is going to be hot for several days. And eventually, middle of next week, we're going to see some heat spread up into the northeast as well, where temperatures near 90 could be possible Wednesday, Thursday, maybe even Friday in this region. So more heat-related illnesses are possible there. Want to learn more about climate and weather? Two ways you can do that. I have another X account where I talk about climate. It's at Climate Data Report. Search that on X and you'll find it. Let's try and get that up to 500 followers. And I also have another place where I talk about the weather, and that is Climate Data Report as well. It's another YouTube channel, so you can go subscribe there, and I have started posting videos there. Once again, we just posted one right before this video. Alrighty, taking a look at what's going on with EMS calls. Thankfully, below 900 in Philadelphia yesterday, but still 849. That's really high. I haven't listened to what's happening so far today, so I can't give any indicator of what Saturday is going to go. I will probably have it on this evening to see what's going on. Taking a live look in at what's going on in Montgomery County. And we can see a little bit busier than yesterday's video. There are 12 active calls right now. Really busy right now. Wow. In Chester County. Wow. Look at all these calls. And there's a lot of bad calls. Sick person. Respiratory difficulty. Stroke. That's 3 strokes. Another sick person, a lot of falls. This is not a good sign. I mean, just look at the ones above stroke. Just between stroke and sick people, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 people are either having stroke, breathing difficulty, or are sick right now. That's just not good. All right, moving on. Walgreens this week. The positivity rate nationally is 22.9%. I expect that is going to continue up. I don't think testing is going to go up much. It's just probably going to either drop a little lower, remain flat, or maybe just rise ever so slightly. So the positivity rate at Walgreens, I suspect, as we head through the summer, it's going to continue to rise. 22.9% now. It's 4.3% higher than last week. Total tests 3,512 versus 3,658. There's over 350 million people in the United States. I mean, come on. That's hardly any testing. All right, I want to show you something that we might not have looked at in a very long time. And first, we're going to do this on a national level. Then we'll take a look at just a few states. And this is United States trends in emergency department visits for COVID. It says percent of emergency department visits with diagnosed COVID-19 in the United States with all ages. And I found this yesterday because I was trying to find Hawaii. Remember we showed you that Hawaii chart where things were really starting to go up? Well, I was determined to find that. And I found it, but I also found you could view other states. So on the national level here, you can see as of June 3rd, just about 0.5% of emergency department visits are now diagnosed with COVID-19. You can see here, that was all the way down to just about 0.3% back on May 6th. So it has gone up until about June. Now let's take a look at some other states. And one that might surprise you that is really rapidly rising is Florida. Take a look at this. Florida, they were down near about 0.38% back on May 9th. Now they have made their way all the way up to near 1%. So Florida is starting to see quite a few people show up that are diagnosed with COVID at the emergency room, and there are no signs of this slowing down whatsoever. There's also no signs of things slowing down nationally. And now let's go down to Hawaii and take a look at what's going on there. Give this a moment to come up, and you can see Hawaii has had a massive rise. This is the biggest rise since summer, what is this? Yeah, summer of 2023. We can see here, when we go back to April 5th, on April 5th of 2024, it was down to the 7-day average was down to 0.51, and the average, or the actual number that day, was 0.42%. It has skyrocketed all the way up to 4.57% of people, over 4.5% of people are diagnosed with COVID at the ER. That is quite a number. But if if we look really closely, it is showing signs of starting to drop once again. The 7-day average is now starting to drop once again. So perhaps, maybe, there's a small chance that there is a peaking ongoing in Hawaii right now. But we got to take a look at this. If you go back to 2023, yes, it went up a lot, but it did not go up so quickly. It gradually went up throughout the summer, then dropped. In this case, I mean, it took since April, but really, if you look back around mid-May, things started to get much faster. It went up really fast. So the hope here is, with it going up so fast, maybe it's equally going to go down just as fast. And a lot of this is because of the KP.3 variant, which now has taken over nationally in the United States. Let's take a look now also at what is going on in California, if we can. Okay, it came up quickly. Earlier I looked at it. It took forever for it to load. And taking a look here. California, on or about the time of April 12th through about April 27th. You bottomed out. Then, the end of April, it went upward. And now you are at roughly, let's see here, where you're at. You are at about 0.98% of emergency department visits are diagnosed with COVID. But take a look at this. If we go a little closer, we can see it is starting to drop a little bit. It is now down to 0.67%. So it is improving in California, which is some good news. But again, remember, the picture going forward, it does remain uncertain because there is a constant stream of new variants coming at us. I mean, the second a variant takes over, KP.2, which just took over recently, has already been outpaced by the KP.3 variant. Alrighty, let's move on now. We're not going to take a look at anything in wastewater today because we generally, Sunday is when we spend our most time on wastewater. But now let's take a look at some other data from the CDC here. And you can see here, the positivity rate. It is yellow out in the west coast or southwest U.S., California, Nevada, and Arizona, and that's because they are seeing a moderate increase at this time, and there is a slight increase that is starting to occur in places like Colorado, Utah, Pacific Northwest, Wyoming, Montana, and in the Dakotas as well. The rest of the country to the east has not seen that starting to happen yet. In fact, it's still stable or even slightly dropping at this time. Taking a look at what's going on with epidemic status, and look at this. It is growing in a lot of places. It's likely starting to grow now in some of the northeast states as well, and down in the south. Florida is still likely growing, although I question why that's not saying growing, because you just saw the emergency department visits for people that are diagnosed with COVID, how that's starting to go up a little bit faster. So we may see this go to the growing status next week. Louisiana, Arkansas, you're in the growing status. Of course, we know Hawaii is in the growing status, as is Alaska. And I meant to show you Alaska's hospitalizations. Maybe I'll get to that either tomorrow or Monday, because Alaska actually has seen a significant increase in emergency department visits diagnosed with COVID as well. And of course, almost all the West Coast, except for Nevada, which is stable or uncertain at this time, is reporting likely growing or is growing. Oklahoma, good to see that you are still in the declining phase. All right, moving on now. Taking a look at the variants. There's a lot of different variants. KP.3 now leads the way at 25%. KP.2 is at 22.5%. LB.1 is at 14.9%. And taking a look at this week's flu update, California. It did move. It's still in the low category, but it went a shade higher on the color scale. Taking a look at New Jersey, 179 hospitalizations, 65 out of 70 hospitals reporting, 10 people on a ventilator, 40 discharges, 25 people in the ICU at this time. And that does it for the Saturday edition of the Pandemic Update. We'll have another Pandemic Update again tomorrow. We did not take a look at California's numbers. They do update weekly. I will remind myself to put that in there for tomorrow before we get to the wastewater portion of tomorrow's update. If you learned anything, give this a thumbs up. If you like being informed, subscribe down below, especially if you want to see more updates. The best way to know when I do my daily update is hit that notification bell, and also sometimes I will tweet out when I am going to do my daily update. So thumbs up, subscribe down below, notification bell, comments down below, and of course share this video with anyone you know. I will see you all again next time. Until I see you again next time, stay safe everyone, and have a fantastic Saturday afternoon. Thanks for watching.